para Holanda. Acaba de llegar el primer.
12 minutos de la primera parte y ya...
La partita è molto maschia.
Prior to 1974, Netherlands had participated only in 2 World Cups. But in 1974, they reached straight into the final of the World Cup. That too after conceding only 1 goal and scoring a total of 14 in group stages. Their sheer dominance was finally stopped by West Germany, who, in their own land, defeated the Dutch 2-1 after falling behind. Although the prestigious trophy didn't come, the whole world that year witnessed a revolution. Total football.
How about that one? Naked. 1-0 Holland. And the ground erupts.
In 1914, Englishman Jack Reynolds took charge of Ajax Amsterdam. He had a knack for technicality in football. So, to instill that in his players, who were mostly amateur, he would often work 14 hours a day. The effect was immediate. Ajax had dominated Dutch football in the 1920s. The world-renowned Ajax Youth Academy also was his brainchild. After Reynolds' retirement in 1949, the duty to nurture his philosophy was placed in the shoulder of Vic Buckingham, who, like Reynolds, was also a devotee of positional football. Buckingham's first tenure between 1959 to 1961 was a fairly successful one, as Ajax had owned the Eredivisie, but his second one in 1964 was a disaster. Ajax conceded 9 goals against Feyenoord and were battling into the relegation zone when Rinus Michels came. Soon, he would bring them out of it and win 4 league titles in his first 5 years in charge, with the help of a flamboyant 17-year-old named Johan Cruyff. Despite getting domestic success easily, his tactical naivety soon got exposed in the 1969 European Cup final against Nerio Rocco's Milan, who thrashed them 4-1, courtesy of a hat-trick from Pierino Prati. But soon, it was another Dutch club, Feyenoord, who, under Austrian manager Ernst Happel, with an effective use of 4-3-3 in the 1970 European Cup final, showed Celtic that the days of defensive football are over. A side which had players like Willem van Hanegem, Rinus Israel and Wim Jansen was not as aesthetic as domestic champion Ajax, but were very effective in their own way. Michels quickly took the lessons and he as well shifted to a midfield 3. Next year, his Ajax side took home the European Cup, and Michels, after winning all he could in Netherlands, left for Barcelona in 1971. But he was proven wrong by his successor Stefan Kovacs, who, after implementing almost the same style and tactics, led Ajax to more European glory, not once but twice, only side after Real Madrid to do that. As the country was rapidly prospering after the liberation, the openness and the counterculture mainly prevailed in the mid-1960s through the Provo, a group which was there to question any orthodox rules. Although most players are dismissive about the linkage between the cultural revolution with their footballing one, the idea that it actually gave them the confidence to challenge old structures and traditions of football is not negligible. And the domination of Dutch football across Europe through their unique but effective way proves that point. As the year 1974 had approached, Dutch club football finally reached its peak. Now it was a turn for the national team to change things up. But the summer of beautiful football wouldn't even happen if Belgium had not had a goal wrongly disallowed in a crucial match against the Dutch. In the 1974 World Cup qualifiers, Netherlands were placed in a group with Belgium, the third place side of the 1972 European Championship, a tournament in which Netherlands didn't even qualify. The other two members were Iceland and Norway. So after beating both those Nordic sides in 4 matches, Netherlands was placed at the top of the table with a goal difference of 21. Belgium on the other hand also had the same amount of points, with only a less number of goals. So all eyes were in Amsterdam, where the final battle of the group was to be played. Netherlands only needed a draw, and the game was inevitably going in the same direction up until the 89th minute, when Belgian captain Paul van Himst's long free kick beat the Holland offside trap and was pushed into the empty net by Jan Verheyen. Which, much to the Belgian surprise, the referee disallowed the goal for offside. Yet, replay showed that it wasn't even close. When the free kick was taken, Verheyen was being played onside by at least 3 defenders. It was a total scandal. So, Netherlands had qualified for the World Cup 1974. But the manner of it didn't satisfy the KNVB, or to be precise, Johan Cruyff, de facto leader of that side. So the manager, Frantisek Federhong, was sacked, and then came Rinus Michels, and he made some serious changes into that squad. But more into this later. Let's take a brief look at the format and the teams of the 1974 World Cup, which was to happen in West Germany. And unlike its modern incarnation, the World Cup only had 16 teams placed in 4 groups. In the second group stage, 8 qualifying teams were placed in 2 groups, and the best 2 sides in each group qualified for the tournament final. In the first group stage, Holland would play Sweden, Bulgaria, and former champions Uruguay, whom they would face first. And as we were saying, Michel made some drastic changes into his side. Most significant of them was the inclusion of 32 years old FC Amsterdam keeper Jan Jongbloed in place of regular choice Pet Sitterkar of FC Twente, solely because the veteran was more suitable to Michel's system because of his ball playing ability. Normal it may sound today, but back in 1974, it was revolutionary. Regular injuries and absences forced him to put a fair pairing of Ajax midfielder Arie Haan and Feyenoord right back Wim Rijsenbergen in the heart of the defense. In midfield, the Feyenoord duo Wim Jansen and elegant Willem van Hanegem were paired with the second Barcelona midfielder Johan Cruyff. Apart from captain and starman Johan Cruyff, the attack had 2 significant new entrants: Ajax right winger Johnny Ray and Anderlecht winger Rob Rensenbrink, whose inclusion in the team in place of Pete Kaiser raised many eyebrows. But after the captaincy saga in 1972, which made Cruyff leaving Ajax, Michels had no other option but to sacrifice Kaiser to make Cruyff happy. But the thing is, apart from all the members who were mostly from Ajax or Feyenoord and were very familiar with Michel's system, Rensenbrink never truly adapted with that side, and there were still some issues left to make Cruyff truly happy and focused. Those were regarding that bright orange shirt, as Adidas being the kit sponsor and each and every player wore the jersey with 3 black stripes and numbers behind their backs were alphabetically synchronized. Cruyff was the only exception. He wore his iconic 14 jersey with only 2 stripes to respect his kit sponsor, famously known as the Cruyff Cup. The game ended in a goalless draw, courtesy of the Dutch forwards missing open sitters. In the final game of the group, Netherlands had swiftly passed Bulgaria 4-1. Johan Cruyff converted 3 penalties. Johnny Ray scored his and his team's third. On 27 June 1974, they faced Argentina in Gelsenkirchen. 12 minutes into the game, Van Hanegem picked up Johan Cruyff with a superbly measured chip, who would then glide past the keeper to open the scoring.
12 minutos de la primera parte y ya Johan Cruyff.
On 25th minute, Ruud Krol doubled the lead with a thunderbolt from outside the box.
Minuto 25 de esta
The Dutch players then went on to score two more in a rain-pouring second half.
Y ahora sí, el 4-0, tanto conseguido por Johan Cruyff, no ha podido hacer absolutamente nada Carnevali.
The brilliant oranges were flying high. Next up was East Germany, who earlier created headlines by defeating arch-rivals West Germany in the group stage, and they were ready to upset Michels' men. But one goals in each half from Johan Cruyff and Rob Rensenbrink ensured a crucial. As Brazil had already beaten both these sides, the final game between the Dutch and the Selecao became an unofficial semi-final. For footballing purists, this was a match made in heaven, as ever-dominant Brazil was going through a transition period after most of the players of that golden generation had retired, while the shining oranges were ready to take the baton of dominance. But what followed was the dirtiest ever game in the history of the World Cup. In a match filled with ugly tackles and reckless challenges from both sides, Netherlands drew the last laugh, courtesy of goals from Neskins and Johan Cruyff.
El segundo gol del partido y el segundo para Holanda, que cada vez siente más dentro.
But they also had one concern. Rob Rensenbrink was seriously injured after a two-footed challenge from Luis Pereira. Nevertheless, with 14 goals scored and only one conceded after 2 rounds, Netherlands looked clear favourites to win the World Cup against a West Germany side which, despite having home advantage and players like Gerd Müller, Franz Beckenbauer, Paul Breitner and Uli Hoeneß, made a rusty start into the World Cup. It was only in the second round that the 72 European champions had found their rhythm. But still, they had to battle it out against dark horse Poland in the final group game.
Might get a booking there if he says anything more to Jack Taylor. It's back to him. Cruyff is running over to... Yes, Jack Taylor has booked Cruyff for talking for too long. Now he's going back for another do. And it's rather woolly.
Netherlands was runners-up. Cruyff, along with Neskins and Rensenbrink, were named into the team of the tournament. Back home, they received huge applause from their countrymen, and 4 years later, under Ernst Happel, they had reached another World Cup final. But this time too, they were beaten by Argentina. From Rinus Michels, Johan Cruyff, the coach, to modern-day maestro Josep Guardiola. Through the decade, a single half a century ago odd day in Germany, now it is a celebration of football all over the world. I'm sure it always will be. And all these have started with a nation that has qualified for the World Cup after 36 years and reached the final with the help of a revolutionary system. Total football.